What's good, sports fans? My name is Damian Adams from The Real Deal with Damian Adams. Make sure you subscribe to that podcast, The Real Deal with Damian Adams. Put the full thing like a pimp named Slickback, and you will find it. Great podcast. Just did one featuring Jerry Porter, 9-year NFL veteran, longtime Oakland Raider. For you Raiders fans out there, go back and check the episode out. Available on all podcast platforms, all right? So, of course, if it's your first time watching me, as you can see, I'm a Saints fan. And I'm coming to you with my reaction to the Minnesota Vikings defeating the New Orleans Saints in the wildcard round of the playoffs, 26-20 in an overtime thriller. Man, there's a lot of things that the Saints probably wish they could have back. Got to start with the missed field goal that happened at the end of the half. That could have been major in this one, as it would have been tied at 13 instead of down by 3 going into the second half. The interception that Drew Brees threw, where he tried to force the ball to Ted Ginn down the field, double covered. If Ted Ginn, if he's one-on-one and he's got a step, that's when you throw that ball. No other situation. You don't double coverage Ted Ginn, you don't do that. Michael Thomas, maybe. Jared Cook, because he's so big, you throw that double coverage ball, but not Ted Ginn. That was a horrible decision and really cost us. The fumble by Drew Brees. We had great momentum. You're coming off that great run by Taysom Hill, where he breaks all tackles, goes down the field, gets us in the field goal range, and then you have the fumble by Drew Brees. He doesn't fumble right there. You don't know what happens. Maybe we score a touchdown right there. Changes the whole perception of the game. But got to give credit to the Vikings defense. They definitely did a great job of shutting down our passing game and running game throughout this whole game. The X factor for us was Taysom Hill, right? If we would have won this game, Taysom Hill would have been the MVP. He was out there doing everything. The biggest throw of the game, huge runs, blocking. Like, he did it all. I think he got a special teams tackle today. So a big shout out to Taysom Hill, who, like I said, if we would have won, would have been the MVP today. Man, you don't want to hark too much on Drew Brees' performance, but you got to keep it 100. You know, he's a legend, one of the greatest to ever do it, but today he let us down. I mentioned the interception earlier, the fumble. Those 2 turnovers really pretty much the difference in the game, right? If at the time that interception led to Minnesota getting points. Now, the fumble didn't lead to Minnesota getting points, but it still was just a momentum killer for the Saints. And maybe this game doesn't even go to overtime if it's not for that fumble, right? And there was times where he didn't adjust to the pressure, right? The Saints offensive line has done a great job throughout the season of keeping Drew Brees and Teddy Bridgewater clean. And in this game, the D-line of the Vikings was able to switch things up, put their best rushers on the inside, and really take advantage of the weakness of the O-line, which is the interior, right? You know, Andres Peters had his issues before. We have a rookie center out there. So you have places where you can attack the O-line, even though the O-line is overall very good. They were able to get pressure on Drew. As a veteran quarterback, and Sean Payton and offensive coordinator as veteran play callers have to adjust to that. Screen game, draws, things that will slow down that pass rush, which I think we did in the second half when we were able to catch up and get the game into overtime. But it just wasn't enough as our defense improved throughout the game. But the reason that Kirk Cousins was able to have the game he had was the fact that the Vikings were able to establish the run in the first half. Dalvin Cook had a great game, even though in the second half our defense was able to kind of contain him a bit more. That first half of establishing a run opened up everything for Kirk Cousins to have the game he had. And that throw that Kirk Cousins made overtime to Thielen was perfect. You have to go back and wonder if Lattimore's in the game at that time. Does he make a play that maybe Patrick Robinson can't make? Or maybe he doesn't, because not like Lattimore was having his best game in this one. He had gave up a big play earlier to Thielen, which caused kind of a dust up on the sideline between him and the coaches. So the Vikings were just a better team. There's going to be some people that point to the final touchdown with the push-off. It definitely was a push-off, but we've known how that rule's been looked at all season. I would like them to at least look at it because you do see it's a very tangible push-off that you see Rudolph get away with to separate and get the ball, right? But I'm not going to make any excuses. Vikings were a better team today, and it just sucks that we wait till the playoffs to have a game like this. And now you wonder, what's the future like? Drew Brees is turning 41 this month. Does he retire? If he does, at least we have Teddy Bridgewater who we can sign and kind of just keep the ball rolling. But if he continues, if Drew Brees wants to stay, Teddy's going to leave because some other team's going to offer him some money. Where do you go from there? You find yourself in a situation like New England is right now where Tom Brady still wants to play. He might want to go elsewhere. They don't have a Jimmy Garoppolo or Jacoby Brissett to move forward to. Do we end up in that situation next year if Drew Brees is still trying to play? Alvin Kamara, do you sign him to a big contract? Lattimore, you got other players, those great players that we all drafted are going to start getting paid soon, just like Michael Thomas did last offseason. So there's a lot of questions for the Saints going into the offseason. Overall, in the season, it's a disappointment not making it to at least the divisional round. Because this year is pretty much Super Bowl or bust. And you have a quarterback that's about to be 41, a good defense, weapons on the outside with Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Jared Cook came on. He wasn't big enough in this game. I definitely wish he would have got the ball more. But, it's disappointing. But all credit goes to the Vikings. I was definitely wrong about Kirk Cousins. This was the type of game that Kirk Cousins needed to show he can come through in a big game. His stats don't wow you in this one, but he just made the big throws, like the one at Thielen, like I mentioned. Dalvin Cook's an absolute monster. Some of the runs he made where I thought for sure we had him for a 2-yard loss turned into an 8-9-yard gain. He's a monster. And the Vikings, I think they have a legit shot against San Francisco next week. Legit shot in that matchup. So we'll see, man. But a lot of questions that will be answered on The Real Deal with Damian Adams podcast. So go ahead and subscribe to that podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, The Real Deal with Damian Adams is there. Podomatic, wherever you listen to podcasts, all right? So go ahead and check me out and subscribe now. Till next time, as always, and forever will be, who that said they're going to beat them Saints. But we'll see you next year. It's going to be a lot more basketball content coming, especially with Zion coming back soon. So we definitely be doing those videos and all over the league, not just Pelicans because, we're not that good. So all over the league, I'll be doing a lot more basketball content on the YouTube and Instagram and whatnot. But we'll see you next time. Go real or go home.